In a similar way, we can start to use insight all across the board. This is one of my favorite things, lunar resonant streetlights. So as the moon comes out and sheds more light on the streetlights draw less energy. So you maintain a constant level of illumination with less energy. You can also start to track and weave things together. So, we already have some great ideas out there for green infrastructure, like green walls, roof swales, et cetera. And we know that we can reduce the amount of rainwater that falls on our cities and gets flushed out to sea as waste water. And we know that we can harvest rainwater and use it. But now there's some really cool ideas about weaving together the cisterns that we're using to harvest the rainwater so that they in effect become a sponge. And when we know that a storm's coming in and about to dump a whole lot of rain on the city, we can have those cisterns release the water slowly and suck up the water as it falls from the sky and avoid the kind of flooding and washout events that you see that dump raw sewage and other things into our waters. Local food, I'm sure everyone here knows about, so I'm just going to move on. Adding density, efficiency, and insight also lets us start to think differently in other ways. One of my favorite examples of this is Netflix. We don't usually think about it, but when most Americans go to the store, right, they get in a car, they drive to a big box store, they go into the big box store, they get the movie under the hot light and the HVAC and everything else, they get back in their car, they drive home, they watch the movie, and then they do the exact same thing again. So in order to watch a little DVD, you are making 4 trips in a car and supporting your share of the big box store. Well, with Netflix, the mail carrier is already coming to your house, so there's no additional trip there, right? And there's no big box store. So you get the same DVD, but you get it at a fraction of the ecological impact. Now, what if we could do that with everything? Well, it may be that we can. And the reason for that is that there's another force beyond density and efficiency and insight that is really transforming our understanding of how cities work, and that's precision. Precision is knowing exactly where things are when you want them. And it allows us to do all sorts of things that we couldn't do before. One of them is to make the Earth into a sandwich. This is my friend Zay Frank's project, If the Earth Were a Sandwich, and I think it's worth reading the mission statement. Never before have 2 pieces of bread been simultaneously placed on the ground directly opposite each other on the globe, thus making an Earth sandwich. The fact that the Earth has never been a sandwich is probably why things are so effed up. That's a really silly, geeky idea, right? It involves 2 people on opposite sides of the planet talking to each other while they're looking at GPS devices, figuring out when they are exactly opposite each other on the planet, taking pieces of bread and putting them on the ground and taking pictures of it. And they have now made the Earth a sandwich, right? Who would possibly want to do something like this? Well, as it turns out, this is something that people want. People actually do want to make the Earth a sandwich. A really surprising and maybe even alarming number of people want to make the Earth a sandwich. And why are people making the Earth a sandwich on the North and South poles, right? Why are people doing this? Well, I think that really what they're doing here is they're reveling in the ability to simply have a planetary level of insight about where you are, right? This is a reflection of the fact that it is now dirt cheap to know where you are, which is very new. It's only been in the last 10 or 20 years that this was even possible. And it's only been in the last few years that it was possible to do this with something you buy off the shelf at a Toys R Us. Adding precision to insight and proximity and efficiency can make cities more sustainable. A lot of things are only garbage when they're in the wrong place. And when we know where they are, it allows the person who wants them to change them back from junk into something we want. Right? So this is an example from the site Garbage Scout. It's telling you that there's a pair of used underpants on Bedford Avenue in Brooklyn, and it was spotted a mere 15 hours before. So if you're in the market, you can rush over there and set yourself up. Now, this particular model hasn't worked out very well. But there's lots of junk tagging going on, and a lot of them work very well, right? There are industrial things like Waste Match. There are household things like Free Cycle, where you can say, I've got a box of mixed nuts and bolts, and somebody can go, just what I've been waiting for, and rush over and get it from you. And they do. But it also, that kind of precision allows us to do some other things. It allows us to share things. Because when you know where things are, and you know who has them, and you know when they're going to be available, it becomes easy for lots of people to use them without each having to have one of their own. So car sharing, if you think about car sharing 10 or 15 years ago, it used to involve filling out a form way ahead of time, sending it in, knowing that you were going to need a car for 3 hours on, Thursday the 22nd of next month, right? Now, you can walk down the street, with your iPhone, call up a browser, figure out where the nearest car is, make a reservation online, walk up, use a swipe card, get in, and drive away. And in dense urban environments, it's very common to have a car within walking distance that's available. Now, there's lots of kinks still to work out of the system, but it's a pretty amazing one if you think about it. And it has a pretty phenomenal ecological impact. Car sharing takes cars off the road. When people can share cars, they own fewer cars. In London, they found that the ratio was 6 to 1. Every car that went into a car sharing service took 6 other cars off the road. Other studies in dense urban environments have found that it's as many as 20 cars off the road. And this is important because when 20 people are sharing one car, all of the impacts that I talked about at the beginning of the talk, right, get divided by 20, right? The impact of owning that car becomes a fraction of what it is for each person compared to what it would be if they each owned their car. In addition, sharing also really facilitates insight, because when you know that you've only got a car for a couple hours, you plan your trips better, right? You don't go to the store, forget something, drive home, get it back again. Like, you don't do the kind of driving, of haphazard driving that many of us do today. There was a University of California study that found that city car share folks had managed to save 1 million gallons of gas in their first, I think, 6 years of operation, simply by driving more effectively because they plan their trips better. And lots of things can be shared, right? Beasing. We were just in Barcelona at the end of the year, and we actually saw this in operation. It's really amazing. It's this system for bike sharing where there are these bike racks with little intelligent locks. You go up, you can get a membership if you're a citizen. You go up, you use a swipe card, it gives you a bike. You get on the bike, you can drive bike anywhere you want to another one of these bike stands. First 30 minutes are free. You can leave the bike, get off, walk away, and go about your business. It's been a phenomenal hit. It just started last year. It's grown from 100 bicycles at 14 stations to, they're predicting by the end of the summer, now it will be 6,000 bicycles at 400 stations. And you see people all over Barcelona using these things. Now, there are a few hitches, like people tend to ride the bikes downhill and not back up. But you just add a couple trucks to haul the bikes back uphill, and you've got a perfectly functional system. And we can, in fact, share a great many things. Who here in this room has a power drill? Okay, wow, a handy crew. Well, the average power drill gets used somewhere between 6 and 20 minutes in its entire lifetime. And we've made millions of them. In fact, I've been told we've made hundreds of millions of power drills. And most of our power drills, I in fact own a power drill, and it's sitting on a shelf in my basement, holding down that shelf, collecting dust, just waiting for the day when I decide to put a hole in the wall, right? And, if you think about it, this is the epitome of unsustainability, that each of us has these things. We throw them out every 10 years or whatever for the odd chance that someday we might want to drill a hole into the wall. What we want is the hole, not the drill. And there are all sorts of services that allow us to share tools, tool libraries, tool rental services. There are tool delivery services that will come bring the tool, drop it off, and pick it up later, right? There are lots and lots and lots of ways of sharing things. And the same forces that make it possible to share things make possible a different bargain between people who make things and people who use and own them.